Okay, this question says, what evidence supports the cell theory? There are three things that you should know about supporting the cell theory. And the first one is that living organisms are made up of cells. This one already looks really good. The other is that new cells can only come from previous cells. And that, let's see, that all cells carry out the properties of life, that is metabolism, reproduction, homeostasis, etc. It says, which evidence supports the cell theory? So A, we said looks good. Let's look at B. Unicellular organisms carry out all the functions of life. That is true. It is true, but is not one of the direct things that links to this idea of the cell theory. So cell theory is really, you got to keep it as simple as possible. There are a lot of different exceptions to the cell theory. So just because something is true doesn't mean this evidence directly supports that the cell theory exists. Multicellular organisms show emergent properties. That's very, very important. If you forgot what that is, just an idea. The idea here is that, okay, we have a human. I can't draw a human very well. Oh my gosh. I wish I looked like that. Oh my gosh. But the idea here is that a human is a multicellular organism. I don't know where did that line come from. And the multicellular organism just means that it's made up of many, many different types of cells. And it's basically saying that all of the cells working together can actually do more than the individual cells themselves if they were all separated. So another example that's often used is the brain. The brain is made up of millions and millions of neurons, and each neuron is capable of doing a certain amount of stuff, but if you put all these neurons together into a functioning unit called the brain, it can actually do a lot more and create things like emotion and thought, whereas individual neurons themselves, even if you had a million of them next to each other, they wouldn't be able to do that. But once they're all working together, they show emergent properties, which means new properties that don't exist if they're on their own. But anyways, just a little bit of extra detail for you. Cells can develop from inorganic molecules. There is still not enough evidence to really show this, which is one of the mysteries of biology. You may have heard of the Urey and Miller experiment, those of you who are doing the evolution option. So that was the idea that they put a bunch of inorganic molecules like ammonia and carbon dioxide, things that were around in the early Earth's atmosphere, and they were able to show that those things can turn into amino acids, which are organic molecules and are very important for life. You know this because it's connected to the structure of proteins. This is for transcription and translation, building polypeptides that turn into enzymes that have different functions as well too. Everything should be coming together and connecting in your mind. But just because we've made amino acids doesn't mean we've actually made living cells. These are but one tiny component. So this is, first of all, is not quite true or fully supported by evidence. And then secondly, this is not one of the main facets that is needed in order for the cell theory to hold true. Remember, cell theory, very simple. All living things made up of cells. Cells can only come from other cells, and each of these cells carries out all the functions of life. So it's not just unicellular organisms that carry out all the functions of life, it's any of these actual cells. So maybe more information than you needed to find the answer, but when you're looking at all of these questions, just a constant reminder to yourself, try to connect. It's not just about the one unit cell theory, it's about how cell theory fits into everything in biology that you've been learning. So it's a good idea when you're practicing these questions. I know you only have a few days before your exam, but try to branch out and extend what you're trying to figure out here to other parts of the syllabus as well.